Hey y'all, it's Meredith. Welcome back to Coloring the Magic. I'm here to help you find a few moments of Disney magic in your day as we add some color to a piece of my art based on a classic Disney attraction. And we'll learn a little bit of behind-the-scenes history about that attraction along the way. Today we're coloring in something that you may not remember if you didn't wear jelly shoes and have permed hair in some of your old Epcot pictures. But I'm betting that if you had the joy of watching colors follow you down this tunnel, you haven't forgotten it. It's now boarded up behind what's currently the DVC lounge in Epcot's Imagination Pavilion, but it used to be an iconic feature of Future World, along with the two fine fellows strolling through it in our picture. Let's take a little journey into the past as we journey into imagination. Journey into Imagination was conceived late in the creation of Epcot. It was designed by Tony Baxter, who had formerly been working on the building design for the Land Pavilion. He turned his attention to the pavilion sponsored by Kodak, which had asked only that their sponsorship be given to something imaginative. Baxter took them at their word, and he and his team of Imagineers designed a pavilion much different from the others around Future World. Baxter had had a few false starts when it came to his last few projects. Across the country on the West Coast, he had been working on an expansion to Disneyland called Discovery Bay. Discovery Bay would have been an extension beyond Frontierland, with a narrative following a young engineer named Jason Chandler, who used gold mined from Big Thunder Mountain to fund and found the Victorian steampunk-esque town of Discovery Bay, which would be modeled on turn-of-the-century San Francisco. Among other attractions slated to be built in Discovery Bay was a rotating theater based around the same concept design as the Carousel of Progress, titled Professor Marvel's Gallery of Illusion. Mock-ups of a bearded, grandfatherly Professor Marvel were created by Steve Kirk, who gave him an inquisitive little green dragon pet for a sidekick. Though Discovery Bay never came to fruition, many of the ideas from Baxter's imagination simmered in the back of his mind, and he kept revisiting them. His original ideas for the Land Pavilion included giant glass crystals that had been part of his design for Discovery Bay, creating a sort of huge terrarium that would house the pavilion's other attractions. We can still get an inkling of that idea today from the Imagination Pavilion's two giant glass pyramids. Professor Marvel from Discovery Bay tagged along too, first as the rainbow-bedecked narrator of a dark ride conceived of for the Land Pavilion named the Landkeeper. When he pivoted to the new project for the Kodak-sponsored pavilion, he found the perfect home for his creations of his imagination in an area themed entirely around the concept of imagination itself. Professor Marvel and his little green dragon were a perfect prototype for characters that could guide guests on a journey through the process of how ideas come to be. With a few changes of color, they became the Dreamfinder and a figment of his imagination. The Dreamfinder's warm whimsicality and Figment's innocent curiosity gave the pair a nature that drew in people of all ages, giving Future World a welcome dose of childlike fun. The Dreamfinder gained more of an air of a magician as Imagineers changed his suit from white to indigo, and Kodak requested that Figment not be the same color green as their competitor, Fujifilm, and it's rumored that this is also the reason that the Mount Fuji coaster designed for the Japan Pavilion was scrapped as well. The Imagination Pavilion opened with the opening of Epcot Center on October 1st, 1982, with its centerpiece dark ride still being built. In the meantime, Ron Schneider, portraying the Dreamfinder, could often be found strolling the grounds near the glass pyramids with his assistant and good right arm, Figment. After walking past the iconic leapfrog fountains and reverse waterfall, guests could still venture inside the show building to see the 3D film Magic Journeys, which portrayed an imaginative view of the world through the eyes of a child. On the second level of the building, guests could explore ImageWorks, an interactive playground area featuring cutting-edge technology for the time, allowing families to explore creativity in a number of interactive exhibits. Guests could walk through the Rainbow Corridor, where colored panels would follow you as you walked back and forth within it, step on colored panels to make music in the Stepping Tones area, conduct an orchestra with hidden motion sensors in the Electronic Philharmonic, look through giant kaleidoscopes, and play with a huge pin table. guests could star in movies with blue screen technology in Dreamfinder's School of Drama, where participants could choose from a Western, fantasy, or sci-fi plot and see themselves alongside Dreamfinder, who in this feature was portrayed by a young Joe Rohde. By the time the dark ride Journey into Imagination opened on March 3, 1983, guests were already familiar with the ride's hosts and would get a formal introduction first thing after boarding the 4-car Omnimover ride vehicles. As each set of 4 cars left the loading area, it would lock onto a track where an animatronic of the Dreamfinder riding his Dreamcatcher would introduce his new acquaintances to his purpose, catching dreams all over the world and taking them to the Dreamport to be stored and made real. Amazingly, the Dreamcatcher floats along beside guests as the Dreamfinder introduces us to his newest creation, Figment. The trick being that the ride vehicles are traveling in a circle around a carousel-esque set of identical stages, each with its own Dreamfinder, Dreamcatcher, and Figment, so the show travels along beside you as the ride vehicles make their way around the circle. As guests reach the Dreamport, the cars shift to another track, and guests begin their journey through the vaults where dreams are stored and where fantastical sights can be seen. Ideas were envisioned as everything from rainbows to lightning storms, a filing cabinet of sounds to a vase of perfumed flowers. From there, the Dreamfinder and Figment take guests on a ride through the realms of the imagination. In the realm of art, blank white paper creations are being painted with light. In the realm of literature, the Dreamfinder creates a mystery story by playing notes on a keyboard that produces words, smoke, and shadows. Figment prepares to star in a show in the realm of performing arts, while Dreamfinder conducts an orchestral light show, and then Figment hitches a ride in his spacesuit to the realm of science, where cars travel around a circular theater showing the wonders of the macrocosmic and microcosmic realms around us. Figment is overjoyed with all the things his imagination can create, and in the ride's final show scene, guests would see clips of Figment himself, where all that he can be and all that he can create become real. The whole ride was accompanied by the bouncy, inspirational tune One Little Spark, another brilliant Sherman Brothers creation that would leave guests humming it the rest of the day. Until 1998, that is. On October 10, 1998, Journey into Imagination was shuttered while the Disney Company and Kodak disagreed over how to proceed with the ride's refurbishment on the eve of Walt Disney World's upcoming Millennium Celebration. The 1990s saw corporate sponsors dropping out across Epcot Center, and with sponsorship dwindling from Kodak due to its own company's cutbacks in the rising age of digital photography, the new Journey into Your Imagination saw the ride gutted of the features that many had come to love as the heart of the attraction. Gone were the Dreamfinder and Figment. Except for a few cameo appearances of the little dragon in the queue line, gone was the beloved theme song. Gone was a good portion of the ride track, cutting the ride from 12 minutes in length to 5 minutes, and the entirety of the upstairs image works. Instead of the beautiful and whimsical vision of what imagination can be that the ride once featured, guests were toured through the Imagination Institute and its collection of labs. The Imagination Institute was the setting for the movie played in the Imagination Pavilion's 3D theater at the time, based on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, called Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. And Disney hoped that the continuity between the show and the ride would be an appreciated feature, but the dry, characterless nature of the re-themed ride had none of the original's charm. The ride's host was Dr. Nigel Channing, played by Eric Idle, and it left a bad taste in guests' mouths being told that they have no imagination, and then proceeding to be used for experimental imagination development. Few changes to Disney attractions have drawn as much ire and dismay as the 1998 de-evolution of the Imagination Pavilion. Michael Eisner, who notoriously disliked the characters of Figment and Dreamfinder, even thought that the refurb without them was terrible. This incarnation of the ride lasted barely 2 years, and the Imagination Pavilion went dark again on October 8, 2001, until June 2, 2002. The hasty and underfunded second refurbishment was done on a shoestring and likely never intended to last as long as it has. Much of the ride stayed the same, but as its new title reassured guests, it was now Journey into the Imagination with Figment. Everyone's favorite little purple dragon was back, though time had changed him too, it seemed. Instead of the childlike griddle dragon full of wonder, Guests were now introduced to Figment with an obnoxious streak. Figment tags along for your journey into the Imagination Institute, causing all kinds of havoc, from sniffing Dr. Channing's armpits and wrecking the Sight Lab's eye chart to spraying skunk scent in the Smell Lab, which is actually a burnt coffee scent, to derailing the entire tour for a tour through his own upside-down open house. After ostensibly being convincing enough through his powers of annoyance to get Dr. Channing to loosen up and agree that imagination works best when it's set free, guests are literally blown away by the power of imagination, as a blinding flash of light and a gust of wind transformed the Imagination Institute into a fantastic, brilliantly colored scene from Figment's imagination. The familiar one little spark returned as well, though the only presence of Dreamfinder to be found is in a door the ride vehicles pass in the Institute's hallway, belonging to Dean Finder. If this sounds depressing, well, it kind of is. But it only takes a little imagination to find encouraging signs for the future of the Imagination Pavilion. Though plans for the future of the ride and the pavilion as a whole haven't been released by the Disney company yet, Epcot's major and much-needed overhaul of Future World is revitalizing the park. As much as fans, including me, absolutely love a nostalgic journey down memory lane to the Epcot center of the 80s and early 90s, we understand that the vision of what Epcot set out to be was anything but static. Figment's presence in the park goes far beyond his home in the dark ride. Anyone doubting his place as the mascot of Epcot need look no further than the lines for the Figment popcorn buckets released during the 2022 Festival of the Arts. The Dreamfinder and Figment speak to something much deeper than merchandising, with a depth of character that Disney can still easily call upon again. Marvel Comics capitalized on the lore of the dynamic duo and created a collectible hardcover graphic novel series, placing the two in an extensive steampunk setting. Even if the Imagination Pavilion feels a little void of imagination these days, with a little love and monetary support from Imagineering, I feel like there could easily be brighter days for Figment ahead. At least that's my hope. And in the meantime, I'll treasure the joy my own kids find in Figment, even if he's grown from being a wide-eyed, innocent little dragon filled with wonder to a grade school-aged dragon who's into fart jokes. I'm seeing my own kids grow through those stages, too. And I'll always have the memories of exploring Imageworks and journeying into the imagination with the gentle guidance of two of Disney's most beloved characters. So there we have it, Figment and Dreamfinder reunited again. Thanks for spending a little while coloring the magic with me. Hit the like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on our next adventure. Until next time, I hope you have a magical day.